Hello. Hi there. My name is Miljan. I'm the founder of Primal. And today we're going to talk about Primal's approach to Nostr. But before we begin, can we have a show of hands? Who here has tried Primal? All right, almost everybody. Right on. I think most of our users are in this room. Okay, so since we're all here, let's begin. Our vision for Primal is to reshape the web based on open protocols. And our immediate focus is textual speech, so the global town square. The Nostr is much bigger than that. Nostr will have many different applications, but I think this is a particularly important application, and it's important to have it done correctly now. First of all, having a global town square in a way that nobody controls is extremely important in general. The whole notion that one company or one person would control it is just insane. And I think everyone would agree with that. And Nostr itself is really fantastic technology to accomplish this. But also, at this moment in time, focusing our attention onto the textual speech is important because users are trained to use these microblogging platforms like Twitter and so forth. So from a user onboarding standpoint, it makes sense to work on this area. So this is what Primal is focusing on. And in fact, our goal is to implement this specific use case as well as possible. When I discovered Nostr back in December, my mind was blown as I was reading through that first NIP 1 that Jeff just talked about. I was halfway through it and it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I figured, okay, this is going to work. And the second thought was, we have a shit ton of work to do. At that time, the user experience we were offering in various clients was pretty rudimentary. So my thought was, okay, I wonder how good this can get. I wonder what it would look like if we would try our best and optimize for UX across the stack. So this is what we're trying to do with Primal. We're trying to build the best possible UX for Nostr. We want to leave no stone unturned in our quest to make the best possible UX. So everything that we do, all of our decisions within the product revolve around this idea and have this goal in mind. And when I say the best possible UX, I'm not only referring to pretty UIs and kind of general usability. I'm talking about everything. So the speed of interfaces, the ability to have content discovery features, data accuracy. When you go and check someone's followers, you get the mostly accurate numbers, as well as optimized network usage, the whole thing. So we really want to see what happens if we try to put all of our efforts into creating the best UX possible. And we're doing that because our actual mission is to onboard millions of people onto Nostr. And usually when I say this, Matt Odell corrects me and says, no, billions of people. You're not bullish enough. You're not thinking big enough. So I think that's correct, actually. We do want everybody on Nostr and Bitcoin eventually. For that, we do need to build premium UX. We need to build a product with the widest possible appeal for the largest group possible. And Nostr will be kind of top of the Bitcoin adoption funnel is the way I'm looking at it, as well as being an important free speech technology in itself. So when you're optimizing for UX, you're making certain sort of trade-offs along the way that perhaps some other clients that are optimizing for other things are not making. So today's talk is about trade-offs. It's about trade-offs and the consequences of our decisions that we make, and the consequences of those decisions on decentralization, censorship resistance, and what we're doing to improve things in this overall trade-off balance as we are going forward. So let's start off by defining what it is that we do at Primal. Most people are familiar with us based on our web client. So at primal.net is our web app. Most of our users are using this. It's close to being version 1.0 kind of feature complete. We're getting there, but we already have quite a few users. In addition to that, we have mobile apps, so iOS and Android apps. Both of these apps are still in preview, and we've been a little bit quiet the last few weeks, but rest assured we've been working hard, and these apps are coming along quite nicely, and we're close to version 1.0 release, and they're looking really good. So in the coming weeks, I'm expecting to have them in the stores. So speaking of trade-offs, and the whole notion that we are optimizing for UX is really affecting our decisions, our technology decisions for implementing these clients, for example. So we chose Solid.js as the implementation technology for the web app. For the mobile clients, we chose native implementation, so we're not using React Native or anything like that. If we had used React Native, we would have been live already in the stores. But the trade-off we made was to go native. We have no code reuse between these three clients whatsoever. That's the price we're paying for performance. And the result is going to be a much better UX, a much kind of faster, more responsive UI layer of our mobile apps. In fact, on iOS specifically, not only are we implementing this in a native manner, we're not even using Swift. We went one layer below. We're using UI-Kit. Just because we wanted to squeeze every bit of performance we could out of this UI, so that when you flick that feed, the scrolling and the UX is as smooth as it can possibly be. So again, this is just an example of the trade-offs we're making along our goal. So that's the apps. But we also build and run services for Nostr. So this is where we're different from, I think, all of the other Nostr clients. In addition to having the client applications, we build services and we run services. So here are some examples of those services. We have an indexing service, so a service that collects all of the Nostr events on all the relays we can find, indexes those, and makes them available for full-text search and so forth. We have a caching service which makes it possible to serve kind of quick responses for the most common types of requests that clients make, so that so that we gain speed in the UI tier. We have the classification service, which is in its infancy currently, but essentially we're deploying algorithms to classify Nostr content. We're trying to determine what's spam. We're trying to figure out what's trending. We're trying to identify not safe for work content and stuff like that. So this will these types of capabilities will continue to evolve at Primal. And then we have the media hosting service and the media uploading service. So, when our users upload videos and images, we have servers that store them for them and make the whole kind of integrated experience for them much nicer. So when you run services, you inevitably introduce centralizing factors into the system, and we're quite aware of this, and we're mindful about how our decisions actually affect the network. our solve for this is to make it possible for anyone to run these same types of services that we're running. So we are open sourcing, or we have open sourced the entire Primal stack. So everything that you see here has been open sourced under the MIT license, so that anyone can stand up the entire Primal stack if they wanted to, based on our software, or they can select elements that are interesting to them and stand them up individually. And I think we currently have the only open source indexer for Nostr, so that's an interesting side point. But the takeaway here is that we are building apps, we're running services. Yes, we understand that some of that introduces centralizing effects, and our solve for that is to make it possible for others to do the same. So I keep talking about trade-offs, and let's maybe use a more concrete example of trade-offs. So let's use content discovery. So content discovery are the types of things like full-text search and trending feeds and things like that. Search is a good example because everyone agrees that search is useful, whereas there might be some disagreements around other types of content discovery things, feeds, for example, the trending feeds. No, not everyone agrees that those are useful, but search is pretty universally appreciated. So, as I mentioned in our panel yesterday, a Nostr client that wishes to implement content discovery, or let's say search in this case, has three options. Well, first option is don't offer content discovery at all. You know, the approach being knowledge that running an indexer is introducing centralizing factors to the network, and because of that, we don't want to offer this feature at all. The second option is to stand up your own indexer and offer the feature that way. And the third option is to use someone else's indexer. So if you're, as a Nostr client developer, if you're considering global search, these are your only three options. Will made a good point yesterday where he said, well, if we're looking at the subset of the network and maybe some of the locally cached content that's gathered from multiple relays, you can do like a subset of the search maybe locally. So that's an interesting trade-off as well. But for global search and global content discovery, these are your three options. And actually, we have Nostr clients today that in each of these categories, and these are all kind of valid categories. But let's consider the consequences of being, let's say, in the third category. So if you're using someone else's indexer, that's probably the most centralizing approach here, especially if the indexer is closed source based. At Primal, we decided to stand up our own indexer, but not only that, we decided to open source the indexer and make it possible for others to do the same. So we already have examples of others standing up Primal indexers and offering search and other capabilities based on that. In our mind, you know, we're all trying to avoid building the next big kind of client, building the next Twitter that centralizes everything around it. And rather than sacrificing some features which are obviously useful, our solve for this is that to have the technology available to everyone, and we think the outcome of this is going to be that we end up with dozens of Twitters, for the lack of a better word. All right, so here is the juicy part. Here is the part we're all here for. So how Primal clients work and how they differ from the typical Nostr client. So a typical Nostr client, basically you have users holding their keys. And this is, of course, really important. This is the moment, I think, the moment when we started holding our keys for our speech is the moment that the balance of power shifted forever. Because we have the power to, as users, to move between clients and without losing any of our content or any of our followers. So this is hugely important. The second point is that the user publishes to relays. So the user gets to choose which set of relays they are going to publish to. And they get to continuously stay in control over the number of relays and the exact list of relays that they're publishing to. As things change, as some relays go offline or online, or as new relays are available, the user at any given point is able to select where they're going to publish to. So this is, again, another element that gives more power to the user. And then typical Nostr clients read directly from the relays as well. So this is good for maximizing censorship resistance, but it has, again, that in itself is also a trade-off, because it is not very efficient in terms of network traffic, it's not very efficient in terms of speed, and it's not efficient in terms of accuracy of data sometimes. So on many clients, that are using this approach, we can't usually get the correct numbers about user followers and a number of other things as well. So at Primal, here's how our clients work. Our clients let the users hold their keys as well, so no differences there. Primal clients, the user also publish directly to relays, and they're able to control the list of relays that they're publishing to. But Primal clients read directly from the Primal service. And the reaction we get from some of the members of the community is like, oh my God, we're all going to die. But let's take a closer look, and let's see the types of trade-offs let's analyze these trade-offs in a bit more detail, and let's see how this can be further improved. So, and this is specifically trade-offs of our approach. So, in our approach, we get the speed because we get immediate loading of feeds and data as a result. We get content discovery because we have view of the whole data and are able to more competently produce search results or create trending feeds and so forth. We also are more efficient when it comes to network resources because we don't need to pull the same content over and over from a bunch of different relays. And the data accuracy is the part that I already mentioned, where we usually are able to get the correct number of followers and things like that, like aggregated data, because we have it. We can do these aggregations. The cons, or the bad side effects of our approach are, well, first of all, now you're trusting Primal to read this content. So that's not good. This is not what we're all trying to build here. Like, we're trying to get rid of this whole idea of trusting a single party that is serving content. So that doesn't work well. And the second one is that the Primal service is now a single point of failure, which means that when the Primal service goes down, you can't read Nostr content. So this is not good either. Nostr is never down, whereas Primal is sometimes down. So if this was the final state of our trade-offs, probably our approach would not be worth it. And by the way, I think this is the final state of these trade-offs for closed-sourced indexers. So that's another side point. But this is not the final state for Primal. Here's the progression that we've outlined when we launched our product back in March, and we're kind of marching along these 4 stages. So stage 1 was we launched the Nostr caching service and a web client, and that worked well. It was subject to the trade-offs that I listed on the previous slide. The next stage is to open source the caching service. So it took us some time to make the caching service to be stable enough and friendly enough for others to be able to stand it up and run their own version. and then make it selectable within the Primal client so that the user can choose which caching service they can use. So this is better. You're no longer trusting Primal necessarily, but you're still trusting someone else. So that's not great. Stage 3 is the ability to support multiple caching services within the client at the same time. So that's interesting. Now you don't no longer trusting a single party. You have multiple parties, and we also solving the single point of failure mechanism, single point of failure problem, because now we have a mechanism to fail over if one of the services goes down. So that's great. We're at this stage currently. The next stage and the final stage is that we're also, in addition to having the ability to work with a caching service, we are going to implement the ability to work with gossip, and all Primal clients will be able to read from the relays directly, in addition to having the competency of working with the caching service. So this addresses all of the major points, and we kind of get the best of all worlds here. This is the Nostr client that I would want to use, and this is the Nostr client that we're building. And interestingly, I think many other clients are now, definitely interested in offering some of the features that for which centralized services are required. Other clients are recognizing that search is important and trending feeds and so forth. I think it's possible that other clients will end up in the same spot at this stage number 4, where they have gossip, but they also have the competency to work with centralized services. And so again, we might end up at the same spot, just taking a different route to get there. So our whole approach here is hinging on the theory that others will run these services as well. So if Primal was the only entity running these indexing services, these caching services, that would be a fail. That would be definitely a centralizing factor for the network, and it would really not introduce anything new. It wouldn't really solve any of the big problems we're all trying to solve. So the hope was that there will not be just one Primal service. The hope will be that there will be many instances of these services run by different entities. And the theory that I had when we started working on this is that the trade-offs or the incentives are there for others to stand these things up, because these types of things are inherently useful, and other developers who are building apps will want to offer useful features to their users. And this is precisely what's happening. We're starting to see that already, and we're delighted to see it. So the first example is Mutiny. For those of you who don't know, Mutiny is a self-custodial Lightning wallet that runs in the browser. It's a wallet that optimizes for self-sovereignty. It's a great project. Everyone should try it. So the Mutiny team wanted to implement some Nostr integration into their wallet. And by the way, their implementation is amazing. It's a great example of what integrating an open social graph into a Bitcoin wallet could look like. So we're starting to get a taste of this. And I think maybe a few months from now, there will be many Bitcoin wallets that implement the Nostr social graph, because it's the obvious thing to do, and those who don't are just going to look like they're lacking features. But going back to Mutiny's implementation of the caching service, is that they wanted to implement a zaps by follows feed. So basically, this is the type of feed that shows people you follow who they've been zapping. And this is extremely hard to do without kind of a higher level view of the network. So this is so they realized that they would need something like a caching service to implement this. So they've done this, and but they've gone a step further. So instead of only just implementing this for themselves, they actually stood up a full-on Primal caching instance, and as well as the full indexer, and made it available publicly so that others can connect to it as well. So as we speak today, Primal users have the ability to choose either Primal's caching service or Mutiny's caching service. So it's already starting to play out. So the next important or exciting example of adoption of the Primal caching service is the Start9 Labs announcement. First of all, Start9 specialized in self-solver computing. StartOS is making it possible for anyone to run a personal server, and their users were asking for Primal. First of all, they're standing up a Primal service that others are going to be able to access publicly. But more interestingly, they're integrating Primal stack, the web client plus the caching service and the indexer, into their offering, into their own kind of marketplace, so that users of the Start9 platform are able to easily stand up caching services for their own purposes. So this is an interesting use case. It's an interesting example where a user might decide to stand up a Primal caching service, select the relays that they are interested in. They don't need to necessarily index everything, but make a hand selection of the relays they're interested in, and run the indexer just for that subset, and run the indexer just for themselves personally or for their own kind of user base in a sort of Uncle Jim type of scenario. So this is starting to play out the way we were hoping things would play out. And I should say there are other projects, some bigger projects that are also adopting the Primal caching service, which we're not ready to talk about yet. I'm going to let them make their own announcement, but there's more coming. So I think the future of this approach looks promising. We're quite happy with how things are going so far. So let's revisit those trade-offs. If we have many caching and indexing services, this distributes power. So one indexer is dangerous, many indexers are great. Clients are no longer trusting a single source for content delivery, and the fact that we're open sourcing the entire stack provides transparency for everyone. And this last one is a somewhat unexpected side effect of our approach, which is we are creating more copies of data, and the whole approach that Nostr is taking is the reason that Nostr is able to deliver a certain amount of censorship resistance is because we're copying our data to a bunch of relays. So this creates another layer of copying of data, which further actually makes our content more censorship resistant and makes it harder to stop. And then we're also supporting, we're helping Nostr scale by alleviating the load on the relays, which currently is a bit of an issue. That top 10 relays are handling all the data, all the traffic. So if we all of a sudden get a few million users, that would be problematic for Nostr in its current state. We'll go through some kind of growing pains there. So having these caching nodes all over the network would actually help alleviate the load on the relays, as well as potentially support some long tail content. Let's say that you are somebody who is not accepted by most big relays, but you want your words to be heard, so you stand up, and you don't have a lot of resources. Let's say you stand up your own low-powered relay. As long as that relay is visible to one of the caching services, you will get your content picked up, and you will be able to reach millions of users through a caching service as a proxy. So hopefully this sheds a bit more light behind our approach. Hopefully you'll agree that the trade-offs are actually interesting here. And perhaps appropriate for more clients than just Primal and the clients that I just mentioned here with Mutiny and Start9. Okay, so what's next for Primal? Well, first of all, it would be good to ship version 1.0. We're getting close. The web app is almost there, and we're a few weeks away from having the mobile apps in the store. Then we would like to do some work on actually standardizing our caching approach. So we'll be working on an IP to standardize this so that the clients and the other caching service implementations can have an API or a spec that they can all follow and be able to reliably kind of work with each other. As I mentioned, we'll be implementing the gossip protocol in our clients as well. And then things don't stop for Primal at microblogging and textual speech. We will definitely be working on other stuff as well in the future. So let's now talk about why Nostr is going to win. I think this way. Only a few months in, we already have a pretty rich ecosystem of apps that are being built on this open protocol. And every one of these projects is going to choose their own set of trade-offs. Nobody can stop them. Everything is allowed, so everything will be tried. And we get to see all of this play out in front of our eyes. So to application developers, I would say, don't be afraid to experiment with trade-offs. This is actually Nostr's superpower, the fact that this is all going to happen, whether we like it or not. And I think it will be glorious. Thank you. I think we have a few minutes for questions as well. Okay.
Oh, we got a good one.
So when is Primal 1.0 shipping?
All developers prefer questions that start with a when. Like those are our favorite. And I think you already know the answer. Yes, 2 weeks.
Other questions for Miljan? Yes.
Hi, this is Lotta Day. I follow you online, so it's cool to meet you in the flesh.
Nice.
The question I have for you is, you had mentioned one of the drawbacks of Primal is that users can't read directly from the relay. It's through Primal. So, and you were saying that obviously if this crashes, then no one's able to access anything on the platform. If this is the case, would you ever consider not doing things that way? And if so, if not, why not?
Yeah, we're already moving in the direction, as I outlined in this slide back here, where we talked about the stages. Let's take a look. Yeah. So stage 3 is supporting multiple caching services. And stage 4 is supporting gossip, which means we're reading from relays as well as get the benefits from the caching service as well. So yes, we're going to. This is getting taken care of. All right.
Thoughts on extending the wallet? I'm starting with Bitcoin Lightning, but supporting other forms of non-custodial value?
You mean beyond Bitcoin and Lightning?
Yes.
No. Not at this time. Well, actually, maybe let's follow up. Did you have something specific in mind?
Well, like Tether.
Tether, right. Yeah, I think that's another one of the, maybe like another rabbit hole in terms of trade-offs that we can go through. But in terms of Primal's plans, we have no plans of supporting anything beyond Bitcoin at this time. But I do acknowledge that Tether is useful to a lot of people.
Other questions for Miljan? All right, thank you very much, Mr. Miljan.
Thank you. Thank you.